How many times have you found yourself surrounded by people, yet still felt alone? What if, instead of fearing loneliness, we could view it as an ally? Imagine if, rather than avoiding it, loneliness could reveal pathways to a more authentic version of yourself, helping you discover what truly defines you. Independent of others' expectations, Carl Gustav Jung, a psychologist and thinker, introduced an intriguing concept called individuation. This process is about discovering who we truly are, and it's only possible when we allow ourselves to confront our own essence, without masks, without the need to please others. It's precisely in moments of solitude, away from the noise and pressures of the world, that this inner search can open up new perspectives, clarifying what once seemed confusing. What if embracing loneliness was an invitation to see beyond the ordinary and explore new meanings in life? Let's enter this space where loneliness can transform from something to fear into something full of potential, revealing profound aspects of who we are and what we could become. This is an invitation to discover where this experience might lead you. When we think of loneliness, it's easy to associate it with emptiness or discomfort. But what if we looked at it differently? Imagine that instead of being a burden, loneliness could be like a blank canvas, a space where we have the rare opportunity to rediscover ourselves. It's in this silence that we're able to hear what's usually drowned out by the demands of daily life, as if the lack of noise around us allows us to see something that was once out of reach. Loneliness, then, becomes an open field, where we can examine our own ideas, free from external influences or expectations. In this quiet environment, we begin to recognize what truly defines us. Carl Jung explored this concept through individuation, suggesting that we're most authentic when we let go of what the world expects from us and start listening to our own inner voice. This process isn't immediate, nor is it comfortable. Rather, it's like gradually deciphering a blurry image. We uncover desires we didn't realize were ours, acknowledge fears we've always put aside, and reclaim aspirations that may have been lost over time. In this way, loneliness stops being mere emptiness and transforms into a unique opportunity to understand who we really are, without the filters and masks we wear in social settings. Every moment we spend in this state of introspection allows us to trace clearer lines of who we truly are, as though we are gradually revealing a work of art that was previously hidden. And as we explore this space, we notice that loneliness, instead of isolating us, can become a way to connect with our own essence. But as we open up this space for who we truly are, a new challenge arises. How do we deal with the parts of ourselves that we've avoided or suppressed? At this point, we're led to confront those areas of our personality that we'd rather keep in the shadows, those that may be uncomfortable but, if accepted, can enrich us and make us more whole. By exploring solitude as a space for rediscovery, we soon encounter something that isn't always easy to accept: our shadow. Jung describes this shadow as the hidden side of ourselves, the part we prefer to ignore or conceal, sometimes even from ourselves. Yet, by rejecting it, we overlook the valuable potential it holds. A simple but profound question arises: what do you avoid seeing in yourself? The shadow is, in truth, made up of traits we've repressed over the course of our lives. Maybe an insecurity we choose to mask, an anger we insist on burying, or even desires that don't align with what society expects of us. Denying this part of who we are creates a constant internal conflict, one that drains our energy and distances us from our true authenticity. Paradoxically, it's in acknowledging these aspects that we gain the opportunity to integrate them in a healthy way, making ourselves more whole. Think about how often we try to hide parts of ourselves that we judge as unsuitable. The person who is always kind but never allows themselves to express frustration, or the one who constantly seeks to please, even at the expense of their own needs. These are common yet revealing examples. By accepting those parts we usually keep hidden, we allow our personality to be more complete and true. Recognizing our shadow is, in practice, an act of courage, a choice to see ourselves as we truly are, with both strengths and limitations. Solitude then offers us this safe space where we don't need to pretend or hide anything. It's here that we can acknowledge our shadow without judgment and begin to integrate it as a part of who we are. By accepting these hidden aspects, we gain the chance to live more genuinely, without the burden of concealing what truly belongs to us. As we unveil these areas of our psyche, another question naturally arises. How many of these facets do we keep repressed in order to fit into others' expectations? What if, in solitude, we gave ourselves the chance to remove the masks we wear to adapt and finally see who we are beyond appearances? When we confront our shadow and embrace who we are as a whole, we realize that, in many moments, there is an additional layer to unravel, the masks we wear to fit into the world. It's inevitable that, in trying to please others or meet the expectations of various roles, we end up adopting a social persona, a version of ourselves that can gradually diverge from our true selves. These masks are, in a way, like armor we wear in relationships, at work, within family. It's common to see someone who hides their vulnerabilities, always appearing strong, or someone who tries to meet all expectations, even if it costs them their own authenticity. Behind these masks is the real us, with our own wants, passions, and interests, but submerged for so long in external demands that we may have forgotten what we truly desire. In solitude, the masks begin to come off. When we are alone, away from pressures, opinions, and watchful eyes, we have the opportunity to look in the mirror and ask, who am I, beyond what others expect of me? It's common that, in doing this, we rediscover dreams or desires we set aside. Perhaps that person who lives to please their family realizes they've always wanted something different for themselves. Or the one who works tirelessly senses that, deep down, they miss something simpler and more authentic. This moment of honesty with ourselves doesn't have to be a rupture. On the contrary, it can be a return to what truly matters to us. When we let the masks fall, we begin to free ourselves from pressures and allow ourselves to live in accordance with our essence. Deep down, what we carry beyond appearances is what defines us. And it's curious that, in doing this, we may begin to notice coincidences and signs that reinforce this inner search. Synchronicity, as proposed by Jung, is one of these curious manifestations. Small events that seem to lead us to discover exactly what we need. As we draw closer to our essence, setting aside masks and exploring our true desires, something peculiar can happen. Events that seem like mere chance begin to align in surprising ways. This phenomenon, which Jung called synchronicity, describes meaningful coincidences, moments when the universe seems to conspire to show us something, almost as if it's leaving clues along our path. Think about a moment when you were reflecting on a big decision, and then you stumbled upon a book that offered exactly the insight you needed. Or perhaps, while facing a dilemma, someone appeared with a phrase or story that seemed to fit your situation perfectly. These chance encounters, which go beyond random coincidence, can seem strange, but, at the same time, bring a sense of purpose, as if there were a hidden order guiding life's experiences. Synchronicity, then, is more than coincidence. It's a way of understanding that, by connecting with who we really are, the world around us also responds. These signs don't just appear as answers. They remind us that often we're on the right path, or they give us a nudge to keep going. When we allow ourselves to stay attentive to these small signs, life takes on a sense of direction and often mystery. These moments lead us to wonder, what if we are surrounded by signs that try to show us a greater purpose, but that we can only notice when we're truly attentive and present? At the same time, synchronicity reinforces that, in a state of self-connection, the universe seems to bring us exactly what we need, and by listening to these messages in life's small coincidences, we come to value the introspective space where they reveal themselves. It's in this silence that great inspirations are born. Perhaps it's in solitude that we find not only the peace to reflect, but also the fertile ground for creativity to flourish. Solitude, beyond being a space for introspection, has the power to nurture one of the most fascinating human capacities, creativity. By stepping away from the demands and noise of the world, we find the silence needed for our ideas to emerge with clarity. Great thinkers and artists, like Thoreau and Nietzsche, sought solitude not as an escape, but as a fertile ground where their thoughts and creations could grow without external limitations. Imagine that, In solitude, the mind is like a garden, where seeds of ideas can finally take root and grow. Free from distractions, we're able to observe each thought calmly, analyze details that would otherwise go unnoticed in the fast pace of daily life. This quietness allows new connections to form and gives the mind space to create something unique, untouched by external interference or expectations. Think about everyday moments. How often, after a few minutes of silence, have you had an idea that seemed to be hiding in the back of your mind? Or how some of the most profound insights come to us when we least expect them, in a moment of pause. In solitude, we aren't pressured to produce anything specific, which opens the way for spontaneous and genuine thoughts to flourish. Creativity, then, finds in solitude an environment where it can expand freely. By disconnecting from routine, we gain a fresh perspective, allowing us to see beyond the ordinary. This state is precious, as it reminds us that by letting the mind wander, without rush or restrictions, new ideas can naturally emerge, like flowers blooming in a well-tended garden. And this encounter with our creative potential strengthens us to face life's most challenging moments. Solitude, which nurtures our creativity, can also empower us to weather difficult times, transforming crises into personal and emotional renewal. At certain times, solitude deepens and becomes more intense, almost like a dark night of the soul. This concept, explored by mystics like Saint John of the Cross and inspired by Jung, describes those periods when we feel lost, facing an inner darkness that seems to engulf us. These are moments when we confront pains and questions we've avoided for a long time, where the sense of emptiness is most intense. Yet, despite its depth, this darkness can be the starting point for a meaningful renewal. The dark night of the soul may feel overwhelming, but it's in this very state that many people find renewed purpose and a stronger connection with themselves. Pain, as difficult as it is, can be a silent teacher, pointing us toward what needs healing, what needs transformation. When we allow ourselves to confront these issues without running away, we discover an inner strength we may never have imagined we possessed. Consider daily life. How often do we try to avoid suffering, seeking distractions to avoid facing what troubles us? And yet, when we finally choose to confront these feelings, we find unexpected clarity. This darkness becomes, paradoxically, a source of light, where the answers we seek begin to surface, one by one, guiding us back to what truly matters. Solitude, then, helps us face these crises with a fresh perspective, allowing despair to be transformed into purpose. The emptiness we feel becomes an opportunity to create something new, something that redefines what has brought us to this point, and by overcoming this darkness, we find ourselves stronger and more aware, ready to start a new chapter, free from the old cycles that no longer make sense. It's precisely at this turning point that we find the strength to break patterns and allow ourselves a fresh start. Solitude, which once seemed so challenging, now becomes the path to renewal. Overcoming inner darkness brings us clarity to recognize the cycles we often repeat without even noticing. In solitude, in this deep state of reflection, we gain a sharper view of our choices, behaviors, and patterns. It's as if, by stepping away from distractions and external influences, we're finally able to see what truly needs to change. How many times have we found ourselves repeating behaviors that don't serve us well? Maybe it's a pattern of always putting ourselves second, of accepting less than we truly deserve, or of following a path we know, deep down, doesn't fulfill us. When faced with courage, solitude becomes a moment of rupture, a space where we can question these cycles and decide which ones we want to leave behind. By allowing ourselves this fresh start, we understand that we have the power to forge a different path. This process isn't about superficial change. It's an invitation to true transformation, to break the patterns that limit our authenticity and well-being. With each cycle we leave behind, we make room for new beginnings, for actions more in line with who we truly are. Solitude, then, isn't just a fleeting state. It becomes the starting point for a more conscious life. It's in this pause that we find the strength to break free from the past and embark on a new phase, one that's freer and more fulfilling. And by allowing ourselves this rebirth, we develop something essential: resilience. Solitude teaches us to be self-sufficient, to trust in ourselves more, and to grow emotionally stronger. In allowing solitude to be a place of renewal, we also discover an inner strength we may not have known we possessed: resilience. In the absence of distractions and external support, we are challenged to find within ourselves the balance and capacity to face difficulties. And it's in this process that solitude reveals its most powerful aspect, helping us become emotionally stronger and more self-sufficient. Think of a tree growing alone in an open field. It doesn't have other trees around to shield it from strong winds, intense heat, or storms. Over time, it develops deeper roots and stronger branches, adapting to conditions in order to survive. Similarly, when we go through periods of solitude, we create inner roots that fortify us, learning to handle adversity without solely relying on external factors. This inner strength is built gradually, as we learn to trust more in ourselves and our ability to overcome challenges. Over time, we realize that solitude has prepared us to face the world differently, with greater stability and courage. Resilience then stops being an abstract idea and becomes something real, something we feel in every decision and in every difficult situation we face. This development of resilience allows us to understand that solitude is not something to fear. On the contrary, it gives us the opportunity to grow, to prepare ourselves for what's ahead, and to face life with more serenity. And, looking at the example of people who have experienced deep solitude, we see how voluntary isolation can transform into a lasting legacy of strength and wisdom. Throughout history, some of the greatest thinkers and creators found in solitude not a burden, but an essential space for inspiration and discovery. Jung, Thoreau, Nietzsche, and many others actively sought isolation as a way to transcend the limits imposed by daily life and social conventions. They understood that by distancing themselves from the world, they could see life and humanity through a different lens. When free from external influences and judgments, these figures teach us that solitude, though challenging, can be a valuable ally for self-knowledge and personal growth. Jung, for instance, not only explored the hidden aspects of the human mind, but also encouraged us to delve into our own mysteries and complexities. Thoreau, in his isolated cabin in Walden, found the simplicity and depth that constant contact with nature and silence provided. Nietzsche, in his turn, advocated for distancing ourselves from the crowds so that we could listen to our own voice and reflect on our deepest truths. These thinkers demonstrate that solitude is a space for growth and mental expansion. They show that by embracing silence and introspection, we can not only connect with our essence, but also develop ideas and perceptions that can transform our view of the world. What these solitary figures leave us is an optimistic vision of solitude, a reminder that it is not a lack of companionship, but an opportunity to transcend our internal and external limitations. By observing these lessons, we can begin to see solitude through new eyes, as a rich and meaningful experience. After all, it doesn't need to be avoided. It can be a powerful ally. Perhaps by befriending silence, we can find a path to live more fully and truthfully. Now, with this renewed perspective, we can transform the fear of solitude into a force that guides us toward a more authentic life. When we stop running from solitude and embrace it, it reveals itself as a safe space where we can hear that inner voice we so often suppress. This silence allows us to reflect on what truly matters. Without distractions, without pressure, it teaches us that solitude, rather than an absence, can be a profound presence, like an old friend helping us look inward and understand what we've been avoiding. Solitude becomes our ally when we see it not as an emptiness, but as an opportunity for rebirth. By accepting it, it stops being something that simply happens and becomes an active choice, a decision to be with ourselves. This is the moment we realize that solitude isn't something to fear. It's a source of strength, peace, and clarity. It teaches us that we can be whole on our own, that we don't need to seek outside what we already carry within. Next time solitude appears, instead of fleeing from it, consider welcoming it as an opportunity. Embrace the silence and listen to what it has to say. You might find answers you've been looking for, new perspectives, or even the courage to let go of what no longer represents you. In solitude, you can rediscover yourself and build a life with greater meaning. Remember, solitude is not a sentence. but a space where we can be reborn, like a phoenix. By making peace with this state, we gain inner resilience that allows us to face the world with more strength and calm. Solitude, in the end, can be a path to living more in line with who you truly are if you've made it this far. I want to thank you sincerely. Your presence and attention are valuable, and it's an honor to share these reflections with you. Each person here brings a unique intention and personal quest that connects us. It's truly special to share this space with you, and to know these reflections might have some impact on your journey of self-discovery. Remember, even in the most solitary moments, you possess immense inner strength. I hope you always find within yourself the courage to overcome challenges and the love to embrace who you truly are. Never doubt that you are worthy of love, happiness, and a life aligned with your true self. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share your reflections in the comments, tell us how solitude has transformed your life, or if you're still going through tough times. Talking about it helps not only you process these feelings, but also strengthens our community. And if you're not yet subscribed, consider joining us so we can continue on this journey together. Thank you so much for being here. Your presence makes a difference, and I hope you leave this video with more peace and strength to continue on your path. See you next time.